So after the very expensive purchase of the Rickenbacker, today we are reviewing the Rickenbacker 360 in Walnut. I should say first is I do not hate the Beatles, but this video is for those who are not looking at the Rickenbacker because of the Beatles or the Who's. And I'm not an expert, I'm a normal person who just enjoys playing guitar, so this is going to be an honest review from the somewhat normal person's perspective. With that said, we're going to cover build, condition, and of course sound. Let's dive in, shall we? Unlike other brands such as Fender or Gretsch, for example, which have offshored manufacturing, Rickenbackers are solely made in the USA, meaning there is not an option to get a guitar at a lower price. Rickenbacker is also famous for being litigious over their designs, in the sense that you can buy a Stratocaster style guitar from another brand other than Fender, whereas Rickenbacker will actually threaten legal action against any company which they consider to infringe upon their designs. So it is indeed one of a kind. Now this Rickenbacker 360 features a high quality contoured walnut body and a multi-ply maple fingerboard and neck. Another great aspect is the weight. So weight changes from guitar to guitar, and this guitar is in fact 3 kilograms, which is very light and surprisingly lighter than what they put on the specifications, which is of course an added bonus. There are 24 frets placed on a very narrow fingerboard, with the highest frets being easily accessible due to the double cut body shape. I personally like the narrow fingerboard as it's comfortable for my hands, whereas other guitars can feel too large because of a wider fingerboard or a fatter neck shape. But with these frets, unlike most modern guitars that feature medium to jumbo frets, the Rickenbacker has very, very small frets, which I think is them keeping with the vintage style. Other parts to mention is the double truss rod, which they recently got rid of. They have used plastic inlays rather than mother of pearl, and the pick guard is 1-ply plastic. Finally, we have to talk about the tailpiece. Just look at that R. These tailpieces are very famous for breaking, probably because they're made from a very cheap metal. And the 12-string versions of these guitars especially are at a higher chance of breaking. And this one here is somewhat likely to break at some point in its lifetime, and replacing it is a big £90. Given the guitar was bought new, the condition of the guitar is primarily good. The frets, there is no wear, however they were not perfectly crowned or polished, which is disappointing on a guitar this expensive. The leveling was exceptional and I was able to get a low action, but I don't think the frets are as rounded over as they should have been. So out of everything, the most notable defect was that the binding was not properly scraped, and as a result there are orange marks on the bindings around the neck. Due to the handmade nature of the guitar, it may be something they missed. This is not too dissimilar to what I've seen on Gibson, where there are also some defects, which you are less likely to see on guitars of a lower cost from import factories. Now onto the good parts. Semi-acoustically, I like the sound. It doesn't sound as good as an acoustic, but if one day you don't want to plug it in, it sounds much better than other electric guitars. This also depends on the strings you use. I will say I've got 10s on there, and the G string kind of sounds like a banjo when unplugged. When I had a set of 12s with an A wound G, I did not have this issue. And I'm not really going to go deep into outputs, but there are two. One is the Rico sound and the other standard. Rico sound is a stereo output exclusive to Rickenbacker, which allows you to take the outputs from each pickup, that being the neck and bridge, on a single jack and feed that to 2 different amps. In the 50s, this was a cool recording trick, but it's quite useless unless you use a stereo setup. And I don't really perform, nor am I in a band, so I don't see the use. I just use the standard mono use output. The pickups are 2 single coils. Underneath the pickups there is foam, which I question because in order to change the pickup height, you are just compressing the foam. I prefer the method used on almost all other pickup types, with springs or rubber grommets. There is also plastic, which is glued down on the foam, which you can't really remove and looks bad when you see it up close. like a pickguard cover you can't remove. For those interested, here's what's inside. To finish off this segment, here is a basic demo of chord playing, and there is some solo playing at the end, so please do check that out. Come on now, this guitar looks incredible. Just look at that walnut body and the maple neck and fingerboard. But would I recommend it? Maybe if you really like the look. There is nothing else like it on the market, and for me, that's what really matters, right? But for real, I like the narrow neck, I like the contours around the entire body, I like the pickups. There is nothing like it. But for others, the narrow neck may cause wrist pains. The body is very large, so when playing sat down for a long period of time, your arm can ache. And I dislike how Rickenbacker have cut corners with their finer details. Now, these are just my opinions, and everything involves personal preference and individual differences. And for this one and most guitars, you do have to try this one in a guitar shop. I hope this video helps when considering the big old purchase of a Rickenbacker, and if you have any questions, please put them in the comments section. Thank you for watching, and to finish off the video, here's more playing.